On to some more less somber topics, Tyler. We have
Yes,
we have some special guests
we
in the
do.
works. This is a different format than No Practice Podcast.
Theoretically, three guests this evening,
Yeah,
gentlemen. We are already 35 minutes into this, and I can't even hardly fathom that we're going to have three individuals joining us if all goes well. Chase, do you want to lead us into kind of this build-up and this intro of what our first and potentially second guest is all about on this subject matter?
yeah. So fans may not know this, but you probably may have seen enough things online. But there's a practice in the sport of pulling that's very, 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 very rarely taken upon. That happened this week at the Farm Machinery Show called a protest, and
Oh,
I can count on one hand, probably half a hand, how many times I've been a part of an event that's seen this happen. And me myself, and I know you guys have just a lot of general questions where our protest is like. So rather than get on here and spitball back and forth and throw darts against the wall, I thought that we thought that this would be a good time to just go into the art of a protest and pulling, and who better to bring on to do that than a gentleman who helped construct the rule book that pulling really abides by on both sides. Previously worked with the NTPA, now works with the Pro Pulling League. Very kind to join us. The Doctor of Tech is what we're calling him on this podcast, Mr. Larry Richwine. Larry, thank you for joining us. How are things your way, Larry?
My pleasure. Sitting in a lazy boy in a camper in Florida, and it really shows off my multiple chins. Uh, I'm glad Bruce is home, and condolences to you, Adam, on your
thank
uncle.
you, sir.
Thank you.
And Chase, you look you look real good drinking beer out of a
Yeah, well,
trophy.
the
Uh,
topic of me don't really matter compared to these guys, but when there's non-somber things, we like to have fun. So thank you, Larry.
well, I like to have fun too. A protest isn't fun. Um,
Yeah,
you want
yeah,
to
let's
know
come
the
right in on it.
you,
Explain. We have a
uh,
lot
Easy.
of fans that watch this. I'm sure you've heard that don't always know about
oh yeah,
pulling. Explain what a protest is from the Doctor of Tech. Doctor Tech is your new name. What is a protest?
jeez. Geez, could we review the name for Larry? I mean, could we be Many Chin or what? I don't know. A protest is something that fellow competitors can do in that class if they have a question as to the legality of one of their other vehicles running against them. If you're not entered in that class, of course, you can't file a protest, but it must be filed depending on which sanctioning group it is. And now, of course, I've been involved with the two major ones. And I don't know what the outlaw procedure is, but I know it's got to be similar to what the other two do. Either way, it's got to be in writing, and it has to be with the appropriate fees that different organizations charge for different things. Um, my former employer, they have a price for fuel protest, a price for cubic inch protest, et cetera, et cetera. And PPL has a version of that. If it's fuel, it has to be filed before that vehicle leaves the arena of competition. And then they would, of course, quarantine the vehicle to the side, draw a fuel sample, et cetera, et cetera. But whatever that dollar amount is, they have to post and give in writing to the either head official or competition director, or they can even turn it into the entry fee, depending on which, or entry trailer, depending on which group it is, and then they can radio the track and say, "Hey, we got a fuel protest," and then the officials could pull it aside and place it somewhere else. You either have to do it on fuel, like when they are on the track before they leave the arena, and anything else can be done either before they run or after they run. The one that happened in Louisville was done before the second session, and at that point, the vehicle was put over the corner and watched by either an official or everybody else in the world too. And then, whenever it's appropriate or whenever the officials have time to, they use whatever means necessary to determine the legality of that vehicle. In my 30 plus years of being the head butthole, police, chief of police, whatever you want to
Doctor
call
Tech.
me. Uh, yeah, yeah. Well, like I said, the head butthole is more appropriate. Anyway, overqualified. We had a cubic inch test check on 2 vehicles at the same time in Bowling Green on cubic inch, and so we put them in 2 different buildings. And I assigned a licensed official that wasn't but necessarily flagging or working to stay in there with that vehicle while the owners tore it down. One thing about a protest, it was never meant to be and never has been a fishing expedition. First off, when you hand it in writing, you have to hand, I want to protest this, whether it be cubic inch, whether it be overall length of the vehicle, whether it be
So
fuel or whatever.
basically, what you're saying is you can't say, "I know there's something illegal on that tractor. Find it."
No, it's not a fishing expedition. You specify what you're looking at, and if they find something in the meantime during the protest, it don't count. The officials may make a note of it because sometimes we see stuff. I mean, I've seen stuff in the lineup to tech area and went in the tech barn and said, you might want to look at this when it gets up here. But nevertheless, no, you specify the item in question that you think's in question. You write it down, you put the money up, and wait for the head officials or a committee of officials or whatever to determine the legality of that vehicle. Now, if the vehicle is found to be legal and whatever they specified is not in violation, then the guy that was being protested gets the money because he was legal. If the vehicle is found to be illegal, the guy that violated it, of course, he gets thrown out, and the guy that brought it to the attention gets their money back. However, there is in both organizations a clause that talks about they do have to keep, or they don't have to, but if they choose to keep some of the money, whatever the protest fee may be, towards either use of the shop or use of the equipment or blah blah blah.
Or Uncle Larry's time.
Well, no, I've never paid.
Okay.
I've never paid
Okay.
overtime, but you're on the
Give you
right track.
opportunity.
Yes, the inconvenience of having to pull the vehicle to the side and look into it. The sanctioning body or whatever can keep part of the funds, and then the remaining funds either go to the protester or the protestee, whichever's appropriate. And once it's determined that if the violation is true and they prove it is not worthy of being legal, then that vehicle is disqualified. If he's run at that event, let's say it's between sessions, he'd be disqualified for the session he's already run, and any points or money would be taken care of. The biggest problem I have with protests is once somebody protests, let's say it's a 1-day, 1-session hook. Once somebody formally protests in writing, puts a fee up, it's up to the sanctioning body to determine if and when and how they're going to determine if it's legal. And that puts all of the purse monies for that particular class on hold because you may shake up the whole order of the event because you can't do it instantly. I mean, a fuel check you can pretty quick, but as far as anything that has to be torn down, it'll hold the checks up possibly for a couple days. I mean, there's a lot more to it than I just think this guy's illegal. And the fees used to be $500 across the board, no matter what it was.
Well,
by today's standards, $500 is no money by today's
well,
standards. So
let's
it's more
talk
than
the
that.
other side of it. Not only is there financial fees, but there's also a statute of a person, like morals, like or whatever. Like you go up there with the idea that somebody's cheating or illegal, you're putting your neck out there on the line because you're going to accuse somebody of cheating. If they're found to be legal, then it's on you.
Right.
If they're found to be illegal, it's on them, and that's a huge blow to either side. So even the congregating before, I mean, and this is kind of maybe what we're talking about, when you're going to protest somebody and you have to look at this from such an angle of like, this is a pretty small community, everything, but you're also calling the people that they do business with cheaters also. Whether it be a tire, a chassis manufacturer, an engine owner, or whatever. And then not that, take somebody that's got a legacy like they do and sawing them
Right.
down, or it's always going to put a mark on the character, whoever's accusing. Either
Sure.
it's the protester or the protestee, whatever you say. It's such
Sure.
a huge blow
Correct.
on that
Drama.
side of things too.
Which
It's damaging to everybody's reputation, not only the one that was in question, but the one, if let's say,
Sure.
either way, somebody's super pissed is all you got to say. If they're going to take the money and the time to protest them, they better be damn sure there's something wrong, or that specific item is wrong. With
they've already went a long way.
Right.
I think before it gets to there most of the
one of your
time.
buddies and asking if you can take his wife to dinner, somebody's
Yeah.
gonna be mad at the end.
which
Right.
is
Yeah.
probably
Well,
why
and-
we see this happen so little. Larry, how many years have you been doing this, and how many times have you seen this executed?
Collectively, I've been the head of tech and safety for 32 years.
How many protests have you witnessed?
4-bolt main Hypermax blocks, supercharger overdrive, probably.
Do you even get one a year?
2 at Bowling Green? I'd say less than 10 in 31
Okay, so
years.
on average, about one every 3 years, a little bit less. So this does not happen often at all.
No. And if I was a fellow competitor and this guy's kicking my butt and I'm sure he's doing something, I'd want to be damn sure that that's what I think he's doing or I've heard he's doing. But like I said, that's why the fee is no longer $500. $500 by today's standards.
Yeah,
is
I'd
nothing.
agree with that. I mean, I'm not
Um,
going to tear my engine
Mhm.
apart to prove cubic inch for $1,000. You know, I wouldn't go do that right now. Let alone
I would do that to Adam
at a
just to
full.
screw them.
Yeah,
Well,
Okay, go ahead.
and that's also, what, even if you think he's legal, to tear him down and jack with him because he's got to take his motor. That's like I've seen fuel protests and cubic inch protests the most, and we don't tell him he can't pull till he tears down the engine if it's a 2-day event. We would say you pull today, and then we'll tear you down, because if you're found legal, that guy just screwed you out of
right.
the hook.
Of course.
Right.
So that's why the
Hell,
checks have to
I've-
be held or the points
We
have to
saw-
be held.
Hell, man, I've been accused of cheating 2 years ago. What this is funny, our family was,
Right.
and I'm like, we weren't even running good that year. Like we were, I mean, hadn't won a single pull, maybe in the top 5 a little bit. I'm
Right.
thinking we can't be cheating, because if we were, we're the worst damn ones on the planet. But like, there are a lot of questions out there. I mean, at the end of the day, you look at this thing, and yeah, we're all a bunch of happy-go-lucky people, and then competition gets involved, and then
Right.
you start getting some emotions and things, and I mean, it hurts to spend a bunch of money and think you're doing everything right, and you're supposed to win.
Well-
Like, we've put the money, time, and effort in, and we should be doing better than we are, and sometimes it just doesn't happen.
Well,
Some people have money and win, and you scratch your head. You got people that don't have money and win, and it's like, man, what is going on here? But it's definitely something that's happened the entire time this sport has been happening.
oh yeah, it
100%.
1969, the first NTPA rule book was written when they consolidated into one group, and you'd have to ask George Everett to make sure, but I'm sure within the first 2 years, they developed a protest system, because, it was, that guy's cheating, and I'm sure that, I'm sure George could tell you, because every rule in the book, no matter whose book it is, either has a name or blood on it, and you've heard me say that probably, but it's true. So somebody cheated, and somebody took the initiative to say, "Hey, well, that son of a bitch is cheating. Well, what's it? I'll put the money up, whatever it was," and that's probably how it got started. I don't know, but I would assume.
Yeah, Chase tries to cheat whenever we put these little bets between the three of us, like the chip challenge and stuff. He tries to cheat so we don't have to.
Well, no,
do
actually,
them.
before you
still
got
doesn't
on, Larry, we
succeed.
were asking our fans for the upcoming Polish Championship in May. I'm sure you'll probably be there. Of what a
I'll be there.
good bet would be. I just hit me. I think whoever wins between the three of us is going to protest the other two for engine teardowns. I think that's perfect.
Please,
I think
no.
that's perfect.
Please no.
And they have to pay for it, right?
Oh, it'll cost them, but I won't profit a bit. Damn it! Come
Whoever
on.
wins
But no,
is gonna protest the
I
other
happen to have actually watched you eat that chip, Chase. I watched that night you were eating it, and I was watching previous of the day, and I'm thinking, these bastards are going to protest each other. When you said what would be a good thing, I actually thought of that. Jeez, oh Pete.
And we're not saying that it's not a bad thing. I don't think. At least I'm not. I think protesting's great.
I
Well,
think it
need
is.
more of it.
The potential of it, besides being humiliated, ridiculed, whatever, in front of your peers, or branded a cheater for the rest of your life. Besides that, the fact that there is a process there basically keeps people
Yeah,
honest.
I like
mean,
that.
none of
The,
us,
hum-
the cheaters, don't
the
want.
humiliation
honestly-
factor's out the window. We do a podcast every 2 weeks. We're already humiliated.
Yeah,
So,
I feel like that is crazy if you really think about it. The fact that that's only utilized once every 3 years ish. Like, what Colin had wrote the question: what percentage of protests are successful? Would you say? Like, how often do you actually find somebody out of those 10 times?
Two
Two.
times,
10.
2 times in those. Those
2 out of 10.
may have even been 12 protests, but 10 come to mind. But only 2 times have it been proven that whatever the person was complaining about and put the money up, said that bastard's cheating. Only 2 times in my lifetime has anyone been caught illegal. But now,
we don't have to name names, although
oh
it'd be
no,
cooler
no,
if we
I
did.
wouldn't. I won't
But-
name names.
Tell us the topics of protest where they ended up being true.
Cubic inch.
Cubic inch every time.
But I know
Both
what
of
class it was.
Both of them.
How do you even test for cubic inch?
Well, we don't. We
don't.
We hardly ever do it anymore. But the pump in the engine, pump a cylinder times 8 for cubic inches. That's not allowed in the protest. You actually have to remove the head and measure bore and stroke with instruments. Now, something I might add too: nobody nobody sees this inspection, but the people that have been protested and the officials.
Sure.
Nobody gets to watch it being done. Nobody gets it measured. And one that comes to mind that you all know about, after the protester and the protestee had been proven that this is not illegal, I said, anybody you arrest, you guys want to know, here it is, come look at it. It's legal. Because they're always going to say, well, Richwine's got friends. Richwine don't have any friends. Hell, he don't even. Anyway, but seriously, long story short, I never have conducted a protest of any kind where it was just one official or just myself saying it's legal. Always get a bunch of witnesses from other officials, and that way it's definitely legal or illegal. But we try to do it professionally and quietly, but at the same time, it either is or it ain't.
How about this, Larry? Somebody put up, Wesley Foster says, I think a protest is fairer than someone whining to Tech about another competitor till Tech does the inspection for free.
Yeah. Well,
put the money up.
Yeah, and I have to admit, I've had people. Oh yeah, I've had people say, "Well, you ever checked on this guy?" Well, no, but once again, I don't forget, and my other guys don't forget. And then next time you tech them, maybe you look a little harder at that item. Now, one time in my life, I refused to take a protest. They said, "Well, you can't do that." I said, "The rule book don't say that I can't do that, but I refused." I refused this. Ernie Connors taught me that phrase. I refused to take the guy's money or the note what he's protesting because I knew damn well it was legal. And I told him, I said, I'm not going to do that. We're not going through the bullshit. I know it's damn legal because I've measured it. And that was an overall measurement of the vehicle is what it was.
Okay.
Larry, can you speak of other motorsports where protests exist, or this concept of protest where a competitor, like, I don't know, honestly, this answer the least bit, but I hear of tear downs in NASCAR. Is there any other sport where a competitor can say, I'm putting this money up to go make sure that guy's legal? Is that, do you know that anywhere?
I don't know. I'm assuming it's still in drag racing, but it used to be NHRA and IHRA both had a procedure to do such thing. And I believe NHRA at the time said, well, if we're going to measure or check whatever this guy's car, we're going to check yours as well.
Oh,
yeah.
So if I were to,
you better get ready for the inspection.
So if I were to say
the same
Chase's
thing or
engine is too big, you say, okay, that's fine. We're going to check Chase's engine, but we're going to check yours too.
Correct. And I'm pretty sure that was the case at NHRA. And that's also a deterrent, But the days of using the pump when they used to pump like the number 6 cylinder every time they pumped, that cylinder might have been smaller than the rest of the. But I mean, it's happened. I
Yeah,
know a buddy of mine who
that's
used to race small block. We're talking 50 years ago, and number 2 cylinder was always smaller in cubic inch limit.
ask those
Yeah.
antique
Oh,
pullers. Ask
you
the
mean the
antique
guys that's
pullers.
got
This is
gallon
cheapness
paint
back.
cans for pistons? Boom, 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 boom.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. But no, it's
Yeah.
it's unfortunate that we have to do that. But like I say, in the dozen or so times I've done it, I only actually found 2 that were illegal. And
Now, while I'm thinking about this, just so everybody knows, you just doesn't, you don't write on a piece of paper. You have to you have to get paperwork, correct, from the organization to
yes, they're
fill out.
supposed to. Depends on if the organization has it to fill out. If not, if it's written on a piece of paper specifically what it is with a date and the money with it, I know it has been accepted in the past. Not everybody has printed
Okay.
forms. I mean, NTPA is pretty good about having all the forms in the entry trailer, and so is PPL. It's just a matter of where you're at, what you're doing. I mean, you got to remember those aren't the only 2 sanctioning bodies in the world. So, you know,
Sure.
it's
So
got to
in
be in writing and
We're gonna see a rash of
and
protests.
pray and paid in cash. No checks.
No checks.
so
No,
in a
no
pinch, you
debit
could,
cards.
No check.
in a pinch, you could use
No.
a bar napkin and a crayon.
I suppose if it was legible.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to know.
With the key is with the cash in the appropriate times, either before it runs the second session, 1 or 2 times it had to, well, like the fuel thing before it leaves the arena of competition. I mean, you don't protest anything else, and then they have a chance to change it. That's why the vehicle would be watched or quarantined until it had a chance to be evaluated whether it was really legal or not.
Larry, you don't have to answer this question at all, but you're here, and in your personal opinion, just of the overall betterment of the sport, if there was more people that would just say, "Hey, I'm just going to go through this procedure of protesting like the professional right way, and instead of just bitching and running my mouth behind the scenes," like, do you think if people were more straightforward with that, that'd be better, or would you rather not even see that happen, or do you not? I'm not encouraging
Well,
one to protest, but like honestly, it's all like it's one of those things you hear about. Like you hear the term like, "Oh, protest," oh, but like honestly, it's pretty black and white. And if you do it professionally, and it's not a personal attack on someone, it's just rather than going and talking and being mad about this and that and stirring shit up, just go. I mean, $500 ain't shit or whatever it is. Like, just go
not
do it
anymore.
and then find out. And then, hey, I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Here's $500 for your time.
Well, I know
You
where
don't
you're
have to
headed
answer,
to, but
but you don't have to
some of
answer.
those take time. I mean, if you protest fuel and it's found to be illegal on site, and you really want to take it to the next level and appeal it, it's got to go to a lab or water. I mean, it's got to go to a lab that can actually be determined what it really is. I mean, infield test will determine whether it is or isn't within parameters of what it's supposed to be. However, uh, you can appeal that depending on which organization there's an appeal process. And at that point, whoever was found in violation says, by God, no, my fuel's not bad. He has to be willing to put the money up the cost to be sent to the lab. So that's another thing why it's inconvenienced and hold the checks and hold the points and just on and on and on the things that are not good about it. I've done tech schools before. In fact, we're going to incorporate it in a few more this year for Pro Pulling League, where we actually have we measure a tractor or a truck, and it's real simple. You find the center of the axle, front and back axle, either way, and with a level in the bottom of the wheel, and drop a plumb bob, and that's the center of the axle. And if you're measuring overall length, you drop a plumb bob over the front weight bracket, furthest most point. Wheelie bars, you drop a plumb bob at the back. Drawbar, you drop a plumb bob through the hole that actually hooks to the chain, the point of hook. And then you roll the tractor away because you put a marker where that plumb bob went, a little triangle marker. And you roll the tractor away. You put a string across from side. There you go. String across from side to side and measure the appropriate spec. That right there is a good indication. There's a great big a great big nut on each end of a string, and you put it across, and then you measure where the plumb bob dropped through the drawbar to the string. Now, yeah, you can argue which side of the string you measured on, but damn it, a string ain't going to be over 1/8 of an inch. That particular item right there was 1/8 of an inch long. Had we measured on the other side of the string, it would have been the 18-inch, which is the spec. So there's lots of things like that. I mean, a lot of tractors have been measured at Fort Recovery on the tennis court. Besides weight, I actually seen before I took this job in '93 at NTPA, I seen a head official not allow a guy to pull because he was 1 inch long and
Story of your life, right?
couldn't get shorter. That
I'm sure
particular
I had that problem, Larry.
Couldn't pull
the
'cause it was
official
too
didn't
long.
work for NTPA starting the next season because Mr. Schreier said, "You really ain't going to let him pull for 1 inch long?" And the head official at the time said, "Nope, he's not legal." And you know that man never was issued a license again. But long story short, I was an official, but I wasn't the presiding official, head official. And I'm thinking, no, you shouldn't do that. That's not good. Tell him to fix it before you see it again. But
You can
that's
be
been my
longer, just not
downfall.
shorter, right?
Huh?
You're
You are?
the hitch can be longer, just not shorter, right?
Correct. If you
Okay.
can't pick the front end of your tractor up, make it as long as you want. It's got a minimum to the center of the axle.
Right.
It can't be any shorter than that. The picture you had there, it's 8 inches is the spec, and everybody thought it was shorter than that, but it
18.
wasn't. You can make it longer if you want to do wheelies all the time.
Right.
It's just one of those deals.
Right.
Adam's father was
I mean,
Adam's father was convinced,
I remember.
he thought the Russians, he called them the Russians, we won't say who they are, had short drawbars. And he actually
We
had your
know.
cousin or somebody make an apparatus we used and gave to me. Marvin's got it now.
And it did
It
catch
did.
somebody. It
And
did
it
catch
also sent
somebody.
people back in the line that was yet to be measured to modify their system. Anyway, but
Yes.
Marvin's got that apparatus now, and I should probably build one like it for the group I'm working for now. But it's amazing. And rather than protest, he built a piece of equipment that is intended to catch them, and we did. So I guess
And it was just a loosely based idea. Like, look, like you said, a 1/16 of an inch probably
no,
isn't going to be the
no.
difference
And
in
a mini rod at 8
it's
inch.
for
And a
more
mini rod at 8
drastic.
inch matters.
No, it is. You're right. In a mini rod, everything's
Oh, yeah.
magnified on them. But I'm just saying, like, people are, oh, that thing's 1.5 inches too short. No, it's not. Like,
Well,
it's
on a mini,
right
you
there.
couldn't get it that much shorter because of the
But
pig.
I remember, yeah, I remember Ohio State Fair, and when every tractor, you went over there in the afternoon, every single tractor got the tires taken off of it, put up on jack stands or what have you, or up on the ground, and they measured
And they had the person, and that's
tractor.
called a super tech. And all groups try to do that once a year, maybe twice. But the biggest problem with that, Adam, is personnel. Do we have enough people, enough time? Unless you've got a
Right.
2-day show where you've got a lax in the action for the afternoon between the 2 days, there's not much opportunity. I mean, and if
Right.
somebody rolls in late, I always look at him with an eyebrow raised. Do you have a flat tire up on the trailer, or did you just come in late
Yeah.
so we didn't have a chance to check it? I mean,
I'll give it to him. I'll give it to him. Last year at Bowling Green, I was in the top 5. My stuff got teched right out there
Yeah.
in the yard, and I just rolled it out there. And I said, if it's illegal, it's Brad Corporal's fault.
Wait till I get
Which
a
it
hold of you
wasn't.
this summer.
So
Yeah. We see the
Okay.
comment here from Wesley Foster. Have any of the no practice guys ever been measured at a pull by tech? I don't know how many times
No.
at Fort Recovery on the tennis courts, the whole class would roll through
Oh,
to
yeah.
a super.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
there's been
Many
a couple
times.
PPL pulls too, especially because we build our own stuff. People have came over and measured it on a cement pad. And I mean, our
Right.
stuff is always right there, but it's also right there as
I
in
have
legal.
a great story I'll share with y'all. And my dad's a kind of a quiet guy, but he's funny when he gets involved. Larry, you were there for this. We were measuring mini rods, and we built the first, with Brad Corporal, the first ever modern mini rod was ours. And
Right.
they look a little different now, but the first ones we had, there was a little knob out the front of the weight box. Like it was flush, but there's a little knob. Larry, you know where I'm going with this.
Oh,
And
yeah, I know.
and the measurement is from the front of the weight box to the back of the tractor. And we pull up there, and the gentleman at the time wasn't official, but he was not. I would call someone that you see all the time running tech inspections, and he was very opinionated of that knob there. And my dad got a sledgehammer out of the back of the Gator and went and hit the damn thing. Said, "Boom! Is it legal now?"
Yeah, I can testify as a true story, boys.
And then, needless to say, we didn't have that problem again.
Right.
Yeah, but then they make a rule like this in the mini rod class where you talk about that knob, to the front of the weight box, but you can have this 3/4 inch fucking hunk of steel out there on the front of it. As big
6
as
inches. You got a
it's a
6
tow
inch
hook.
allowance for tow hook, gentlemen.
Yep.
Actually, I lied a little bit of that story. He got the sledgehammer out, and they said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm going to hammer this son of a bitch right now, and make it legal." He said, "No, don't do that." He didn't actually hit it, but he got it out of the Gator. So,
I was there when he threatened to do it. Yeah,
he said, "I'm taking a sledgehammer and make this legal real quick." But
he's quite a guy. He's quite a guy.
Yeah, he's something. He's a funny, good dude. So, Larry, appreciate you coming on here and
my pleasure. Anytime.
And sharing. Last question I have, and Adam and Tyler might have one.
Okay.
I'm good.
If you were, I know you've been involved in all sides of it. If you had to change one thing with the protest procedure, would you change it, or what's your thoughts on that?
I'd probably make it even more cost prohibitive. I mean, you're going to have to be damn sure that guy's illegal to fool with him. I mean, I know now some of them are $1,200, some of them are $1,500, but when that rule was originally $500, that was probably like a fourth of what it is today. That money's $500 is a couple grand nowadays.
Yep.
Come on, Larry. We got a guy with the $700,000 tractor that wants to prove a point that because they're going to win $1,500. They can.
So far, he hasn't said anything. He's just worried they'll find out why his tractor didn't cost $800,000.
Yeah. And Larry, the procedure, the Farm Machinery Show, because this is going to be another question we've had. The Farm Machinery Show, in terms of rules, can you speak of what rules they follow and procedures, or because
they actually have their own set of rules and procedures, and I mentioned to them that we really need to publish those for next year. So they really follow both groups, NTPA and PPL. There's a lot of parallels, but you can look at individual rules and you can see where they actually favor. But as far as the protest, the way it was handled, the way it was conducted, was right in line with both. In fact, there were the head official of both groups there, and a representative of that group that actually puts that event on, and myself. There was 4 of us that actually did that protest checking, and procedure was done correctly. And that's why I said everybody after the 2 parties, protester and protestee, seen it. That's why I said anybody else get over here and look if you want to look, damn it, because it's legal. Yeah. But it was done properly. When it's a group like that that's blended, you about got to use everybody's rules. But
oh god, Larry left us.
Yep, a little bit of a.
Larry, are you there? We lost.
I'm here. Yeah. I'm here.
When you got both groups and we lost you.
Both groups are blended really well into what they use. And I mentioned that maybe they should actually print and publish this set of rules for the procedures that we do. But there's very little difference, if any, other than the cost of it. Everything else is exactly the same.
If there's one piece of advice you could give somebody how to properly protest, what would that be after what you saw this past weekend?
Well, I don't know that it was not done properly this weekend. I know that the people that put the money up thought it was late before it actually got checked, but it doesn't mean they're going to drop everything they do and check this guy's tractor. They got to have time. But the best thing is be courteous to everybody and put it in writing and put the money up and give it to the appropriate parties and say, man, I protested this guy or whatever, but I'm not saying he's illegal, but I just don't think it's right. I mean, I don't know. Either way you go, their emotions are going to raise and the blood pressures are going to go up. And somebody's obviously pissed.
Sure. All right. Well, Larry, we can't thank you enough for your time. I like to ask people stupid questions on here. So before you go, I'm just curious. Would you have trusted the first man that ate a lobster and been the second guy to eat one?
Well, well, wait a minute. I'm talking to Tyler. Tyler. Now my head hits the recliner. Anyway, yeah. I don't eat seafood because they swim in their own poo. But just because some bitch is dumb enough to eat it, I'm not sure I would have.
That's fair.
Later, privately, I'll tell you my two rules on eating things later and private. But I don't think I wouldn't have been the second guy to eat a lobster. No.
I've often wondered that because I love lobster, but they're intimidating looking creatures. So I don't know if I could have been number 2. So I don't blame you.
Yeah. Don't they scream when you throw them in the boiling water?
I don't know. I've never cooked a live one personally.
They do.
Okay.
They
Well,
do. Yeah.
that's what I thought. Yeah.
Larry,
all right.
Anyway, guys,
Dr. Tech,
Thanks.
it's been amazing. We've actually have a ton of comments saying we should do this segment more often. Maybe we can figure out a way to do this. But the
Start protesting, folks. We'll get on here.
Larry, you give me a lot of information how to go about protesting Adam and Tyler, and I'm going to do it professionally. So thank you.
All righty. Thanks, guys. Have a good evening.
Yep.
Safe travel. Thanks.